If you want to understand like what the average person's perspective is on this shit, that's what it is. Why the are these guys talking about Israel so much? Who cares? Do you understand? Most people are saying, well, what the mayor of Israel or New York City? They also agree with Zohran's position as well. That's the other thing. This is not a real, this is not an issue that's important in this debate. Even if people are thinking about Israel, they are not siding with Andrew Cuomo's position. They're siding with Zohran Mamdani's position. Let's get to the New York City mayoral race. Okay. Yesterday, I live reacted to the first New York City mayoral debate. Okay. Now, coming into this race, Zohran already had a significant advantage, seemingly the approval of the majority in recent polls that were conducted right before the debate. And I suspect that after the debate, his approval even went up higher. I do think that Andrew Cuomo's performance was so spectacularly bad that he will probably lose support after this debate. But who knows? People are very stupid sometimes. Now, of course, one of the reasons I suspect that Zohran Mamdani's mayoral poll leading up to this debate was at 52%, up +5. Andrew Cuomo was -1 at 28%, and Curtis Sliwa was at 14% with a +3. The reason why I suspect that is because, as John DeLillo correctly pointed to, what you have to remember is this poll was conducted before Zohran refused to condemn Hasan Piker on the debate stage, which is true, because that did happen. That did happen. Look now. On the debate stage. Zohran Mamdani, in an act of resilience, refused to condemn the dangerous Hasanabi Piker. Okay? Which is pretty up, honestly. Pretty up. You're going down, pretty boy? Yeah. Any moment now. Now, of course, there were some other more relevant positions, not like cost of living crisis that New Yorkers are facing. Obviously, that was irrelevant because it took 50 minutes for the debate moderators to finally get to that issue on the New York City mayoral race debate, and only like 10 minutes to get to the important issue that actually matters. Israel fears that Jewish people have, that Muslim man is scary, and Israel, will you actually defend Israel? Will you send the New York Police Department to defend Israel against other October 7th style incidents? Okay, after all, that's the only thing that matters, obviously. Will you do parades in Israel? Will you do Israel-style parades? Will you actually do fast and free buses if Israel doesn't want you to do fast and free buses? You know, things like that. Very cool. Very cool and very important issues such as that. Now, the level of discourse right now for a New York City mayoral candidate and former governor bringing up a streamer like in an official debate, and then the White House press secretary responding to a legit question with your mom. I know, it's insane. Now, New York Times called him a YouTube streamer. Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hasan Piker, Mr. Cuomo asked, referring to a popular YouTube streamer who once said America deserved 9/11. Mr. Mamdani said that he found Mr. Piker's comments objectionable or reprehensible, but he said he stood by his remark that he would not recognize Israel's right to be a Jewish state. It's crazy that they call me a YouTube streamer. I'm a Twitch streamer. Okay? Anyway, getting insulted as a YouTube streamer, getting double insulted. All right. Do you think Cuomo had an ADL handler telling him to bring you up, or does he just have Hasan derangement syndrome? I don't think Andrew Cuomo personally has a Hasan derangement syndrome. I think he has a lot of extremely online, extremely right-wing, and pro-Israel guys in his team that think that this is actually a good thing to bring up in a debate. There's no way that he personally knew who the I was, and it was most likely people in his team that he's listening to, and he's very desperate, and he thinks that this would actually cause chaos or controversy. But I don't think he himself is actually I don't think he himself is actually aware of who I am or anything like that. First the ADL guy calling you a gamer, and then this. This is an act of desperation. It's very obvious that it's an act of desperation because there is a reason. I mean, there's no planet where this is supposed to be like a serious blow to Zohran Mamdani. Okay? It just doesn't work that way. Especially because the overwhelming majority of people that will go through the task of trying to figure out who the I am are going to be met with like a barrage of positive mainstream media coverage. Because we're talking about normies who care about what the New York Times is saying. They're not going to go on TikTok to be like, oh my God, this guy is shocking his dog or whatever that people are saying on TikTok. They're going to look at what the New York Times has written, what the New York Post has written. Okay. And depending on which outlet they consider to be more reputable, they're going to see a New York Times op-ed piece. They're going to see my debate with Ross Douthat or something. And they're not going to be leaving that conversation with this notion that like this is a dangerous person. Okay? It's that simple. It's a spectacular failure of epic magnitude. Of course, the Hasbara dish rags like Jewish Insider will write about it. Mamdani distances himself from Hasan Piker's 9/11 comments in the mayoral debate, but the New York City mayoral nominee hasn't spoken against the streamer's long history of anti-Semitic rhetoric. Like, this came out literally the moment. Like, this came out yesterday while the debate was going on. They wrote this article while the debate was going on. I need you to be so for real, okay? He's just trying to make this an issue, and the Hasbara papers like Jewish Insider or the Free Press or the New York Post will try to make this a deal, but it's not, because most people don't know who the I am. It's that simple. Most people who are voting for the New York City mayoral race do not know who the I am. And the ones that do know, either by and large think I'm a progressive force, or they despise me and are most likely to vote not even for Cuomo, but for Curtis Sliwa anyway. Okay? Hasan, stop. Please stop being ridiculous. People know who you are. No. You're misunderstanding my point. Of course people know who I am. Obviously, if that wasn't the case, Andrew Cuomo would not know who the I am and bring my name up at all. Okay? The reason why he's doing that is because this is his like last desperate gasp here. And it's nothing. It's a nothing burger. It's a dud. Because at most, even in the worst circumstance, if he was like constantly being hammered with this shit, he could just be like, listen, guys, I don't know Hasan Piker. He could just say that. You know what I mean? He could just be like, yeah, I don't know him. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, I don't support Zohran Mamdani any longer. Right? Like, it's not a real line of attack. It's not a real avenue of attack, as I also described, because Zohran Mamdani could just as easily have turned around in that moment and been like, you're talking about associations and like media hits that I do. Meanwhile, you just went on the Impulsive podcast, which played a formative role in Trump becoming president. You know? Shouts out to Mike Malak once again. No smoke for him, but I'm just saying, if we're playing politics of that sort, you know, he could return fire in a similar vein. He doesn't even need to do that, of course, because it's stupid. It's a stupid argument to make. And that's it. It's that simple. Have you reached out to him about any of this, or do you just trust him and his team to do the appropriate combination of what's right for the campaign and mostly fair to you? I will not be confirming nor denying anything of that sort. But in any case, listen. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I do not matter. I mean, I'll take the W, I'll take the mention. Okay? I'll take the mention overall. But this is not a consequential line of attack in general, especially considering that even though the moment was very funny and I appreciate it, okay, even though that moment was great for me, at least, it's a nuisance for Zohran to have to address at all. I work with more Democrats than Andrew Cuomo does. Okay? That's the other thing. Like, As a matter of fact, a lot of the people to my left flank oftentimes will say I'm a sheepdog for the Democratic Party for this reason. Like, I have a consistent track record of opposing Republicans, as I also called out here. I said deeply unserious person to bring up a Schumer twice, especially considering I oppose the Republicans. Cuomo works with them to gridlock New York State politics. That's it. But I think this recognition or this mention is more indicative of the failure of his campaign. You had to apologize for the 9/11 comments before Zohran was even a state assemblyman, so it's extra dumb. Yeah, but that was precisely what Andrew Cuomo was doing. His only line of attack was the annoying, like, oh, you said this in 2020, you said that in 2020, you flipped off the Christopher Columbus statue, things like that. And that's not a significant line of attack. You're not talking about anything serious. And the only reason why this line of attack also doesn't work at all is because Zohran's on that stage talking about what he wants to do for New Yorkers, and Andrew Cuomo looks like a weak, flailing, aggressive, demented old man with a horrible track record, crying about old tweets and Twitch streamers, deeply insecure, deeply unserious. Do you understand? If Zohran didn't have policies that you could define him by, this line of attack would probably be more successful. Okay? That's it. If Zohran didn't have 5 key policies that everyone can point to when they think about why they want to vote for him or why they want to oppose him, then yeah, this might be a more sticky issue for him, right? After all, he himself is visibly Muslim. He's also 34 years old as of this weekend, and also a socialist. He has a long track record of anti-Zionist activism. These would be issues of consequence if he did not present a robust policy platform that people can associate with, that people can actually look at and say, I want that. I don't give a what his background is. This is something that I always talk about, putting class first politics at the forefront of your communication, putting policies that seek to improve the material harm that the largest swaths of society are experiencing at the forefront of your platform will make it so that anyone who opposes you with silly culture war narratives and lines of attack like this look even more unserious. Because any moment that he's talking about policy and you're talking about this other dumb shit is a moment where you're losing. Okay? That's it. And yeah, the reason why Andrew Cuomo is bringing me up is because Zach Sage Fox is a part of his social media team. And Zach Sage Fox is a major Israel dick rider and a deeply unserious person. Okay. And also has been pictured next to Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, this is the guy. That's him. That's his social media team. If you want to know where this like Hasan Piker mention is coming from, that's it. If Andrew Cuomo was smart, he wouldn't be doing this shit. He would probably be trying to regain some confidence from voters by presenting like a reasonable, moderate approach that resembles resembles Zohran Mamdani's campaign, which at times he has tried to do. Okay. Oh yeah, here.
I feel like women in Israel especially think I'm gay.
That's the guy. You shouldn't help them. It's too late. Andrew Cuomo does not have the capacity to win back people who he has lost at this point. Okay? But that's it. You have bad instincts and you have a bad team. You're a bad person as well, and people can see it. Even the dumbest guy at the end of the day understands that when you're voting for a politician, that politician needs to give you shit. That politician needs to give you things. And if one message out of these two different messages, which one resonates better with voters? I'm going to give you fast and free buses and a rent freeze versus why are you not condemning Hamas and Hasan Piker? Which message do you think is going to resonate with a broad base of support? That's it. Anyway, here's the moment.
Protected, but they will belong.
Mr. Sliwa, we will get to you. First, I'm going to ask a question of Mr. Cuomo. While you are a strong supporter of Israel, you have also been slow to develop a relationship with the city's Muslim community.
Thank you, Universal Power User, for this one. You get the
a terrorist sympathizer. How do
Bro, it's 2025 and you still think policy matters? Zohran has proven that policy matters. His success in the crowded primaries is proof of concept. Okay? That is literally objective proof. Because although there are although there were plenty of people who, for example, disagree with Zohran on his opinions on Israel, amongst like New York Jews, for example, that voted in the Democratic Party's primaries, they still ended up voting for Zohran over Cuomo and all of the other candidates in ranked choice voting. Why is that the case? New York Jews were recently polled. 60% of them still either strongly or somewhat support Israel over Palestinians, as opposed to only 30% of New York Jews that either somewhat or strongly support Palestinians over Israelis. That means that the majority of New York Jews still have sympathies towards Israel and not a lot of sympathy towards Palestinians. That means that, they're pro-Israel, okay? And yet, there was still plenty of New York Jews that voted for Zohran over anybody else, in spite of Zohran's clear-cut advocacy against Israel. Why is that the case? Perhaps there were other policies that they liked from Zohran Mamdani. Because if you simply look at the aesthetics of it, no one who is pro-Israel after 2 years of genocide is going to vote for the Muslim anti-Zionist in this race. If you look at the aesthetics of it, there has to be something else that caused them to vote for Zohran in spite of their support for Israel. And that is the policies. That is the material improvements that Zohran is promising. It's that simple. Okay? That's it. That's it.
you assure those New Yorkers, especially Muslims and Arabic New Yorkers, that you will be a mayor for all? You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, well, first, I think the Assemblyman created the perception himself. Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hasan Piker? Why did it take us here tonight for the first time for him to say it? He still won't denounce, globalize the intifada.
I think his face is so funny here. It's just like what a spectacle this is. It's just, you might as well throw in the towel at that point.
Which means kill all Jews. Just say, I denounce it. He won't do
older
it.
Jewish
That's
New Yorkers
the
are
issue.
looking
And
up
his
right now.
divisiveness is extraordinary.
Why are you
saying
Hamas and Hasan Piker? Can you please answer about your own relationship with the Muslim community?
What is this? Cuomo, do you condemn Hasan Piker? Mamdani, free buses increase safety and efficiency. Sliwa, it was a cold night in 1998. Frank Sinatra had just faked his own death, and the Yankees were headed to the World Series. Yeah. And even though that was an idiotic take, he did it again. He brought it up again when asked about his Islamophobia. Okay? It's ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to some other shit. Let's get to the issues that really matter for the New York mayoral debate. You got the Yahoo article? Yahoo. Oh, from Mediaite. Mamdani condemns Hasan Piker for reprehensible 9/11 comment in heated battle with Cuomo during debate. Anyway, most of it is just like his takes on the occupation. This is just like a SEO bait article. But in any case, your heart must have sunk into your stomach when you heard your name like that? No, I knew that it was happening. I knew that it was going to happen. How else would I have been able to predict it ahead of time? I said it. I said it before the debate. Do you have a Planet Cuomo's team who filled you in? Maybe. Yeah, here's me saying it before the debate. That I know for a fact almost that I will be brought up in tonight's debate.
You think so?
As a line of attack. Have you seen the Andrew Cuomo press conference that he did on 9/11?
Oh, yeah. That quote. That's gonna be on your tombstone, brother.
He's going to bring it up, I think, to be like,
you really think so?
Oh, 100%. He's so desperate. He has nothing.
The assemblyman will not denounce Hasan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. The assemblyman just said in his response, well, it depends on occupation. That is code, meaning that Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish state, which he has never acknowledged. That is from the river to the sea. That's why he won't denounce globalized intifada, which means kill. Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hasan Piker?
Pre-watch Piker.
Why did it take us here tonight for the first time for him to say it? He still won't denounce globalized intifada, which means kill all Jews. Just say, I denounce it. He won't do it.
Older Jewish New Yorkers are looking up right now.
And his divisiveness is
Open presence. Thank you for the 25 bones. I still think he had a third one in the chamber if Zohran hadn't swerved him later. Yeah. I wonder if he is dumb enough to try it again. Because like I said already, at most, what Zohran will do if he's consistently backed into the corner is just be like, yeah, f him. I don't know him, right? I don't know the guy. He could just do that. Obviously, that's a little fake if he were to do that. But regardless, like at most, if he kept pushing it over and over again, that's what he could easily say. So it just doesn't make any fucking sense for him to keep pressing this because, like, you're trying to win. If you're Andrew Cuomo, you're trying to win, right? You're trying to win the mayoral race. Your higher priority here isn't to disparage me because at most, if he threw me under the bus, then all that does is just fuck me over. You know what I mean? For a little bit. Like, are you running? Are you running to be the next mayor of New York? Or are you running to, I guess, attack Israel's critics? You know? Hasanabi is the Jeremiah right to Barack Obama? No, it's different than that. Especially because, remember, I platformed Zohran in the primaries. Like, there's a difference. Like, I'm a separate person that has his own work in the Democratic Party alongside like other Democrats and stuff like that. Whereas Jeremiah Wright is a local religious figure who did not actually do anything or say anything wrong, in my opinion. You're missing the bigger point that Majority Report brought up. He answered a question about Islamophobia with blatant Islamophobia. Exactly. No, I'm going to get to that in a second because that was the second time. That is the second time he brought me up. Zohran will win the race if he said, I don't care what he says 7 years ago. He's too far ahead. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. At this point, it's not like, at least this line of attack is not going to work. Please don't ban me. I'm curious. And we've moved on. Wait, what is this? But do you think in the wake of Collargate, Mamdani saying he condemns your comments looks bad? I've seen weirdos try to interview this into the smear campaign. No. This is you have to be unimaginably online to think that is an issue of consequence here. Please, chatter. Yeah, ultimately, the second mention was basically this. What will you do to make the Muslim community feel safe? Cuomo, here's another brown fella I hate. Like, this guy, Hasan Piker, you won't condemn him. He loves 9/11. He wants to do 9/11. You want to do 9/11. Like, that's what this is. The association of not only one, but two Muslim dudes with 9/11 is exactly what he's trying to do there. And he ain't slick. And I think that's the reason why the second time when he responded to the moderators who asked the moderators, when they asked, like, well, don't you think it's appropriate for Zohran to call into question, like, what you've done for Muslim New Yorkers, considering that you couldn't even name a mosque? He still turned around and was like, name a mosque? How about name Hamas and Hasanabi Piker, who he refuses to condemn? Ridiculous. Yeah, both of the Muslims that Cuomo mentioned, by the way, were 8 years old during 9/11. 8. All right.
Of course, I believe that they should lay down their arms. I'm proud to be one of the first elected officials in the state who called for a ceasefire. And calling for a ceasefire means seizing fire. That means all parties have to cease fire and put down their weapons. And the reason that we call for that.
Yeah, I mean, this was when he said all parties should put it down. He was trying to do the both sides thing, which I think is like not necessarily a retreat in general, but he was trying to do the same, like, oh, I think Israel has a right to exist as long as everybody has equal rights and representation. He's basically doing that same thing where he's saying, like, look, I think it's fine for both parties to disarm and put their weapons down, knowing that is the most, like, liberalized version of like the most liberal way of communicating that position.
Is not only for the end of the genocide, but also an unimpeded access of humanitarian aid. I, like many New Yorkers, am hopeful that this ceasefire will hold. I'm hopeful that it is durable. I'm hopeful that it is just.
The President of the United States should have been applauded by you, Zohran Mandami, and you, Andrew Cuomo, on the day that he brought together that international coalition that met in Egypt, that came from the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. I certainly applauded him for bringing peace to Gaza and trying to end the hostilities in the war between the Israelis and Hamas, so there can be peace between the Israelis and peace between the Palestinians. But you seem, Zohran, to be incapable of praising our president. And Andrew, you were incapable of praising our president.
Gentlemen, we have
Give credit where credit is due. He's brought peace to Gaza.
I did applaud President Trump in his.
This is the stupidest question. Why won't you applaud our big, beautiful president for putting forth the same ceasefire conditions that existed for a year now after 9 additional months of genocide? Like, stop, dude. Is he a king? Is he a god? He's the goddamn president. Calm down. How is this even? This isn't even relevant to the Israel-Palestine conversation. Like, we've moved even beyond that. One should ask, why is this even an issue of utmost importance in the New York mayoral race? And that's a valid question to begin with. But then to move beyond the Israel-Palestine situation and be like, why won't you praise Donald Trump? Like, what are we doing here? What the are we doing here? What a idiotic spectacle, dude. So dumb.
Administration, I think it was a great accomplishment. I hope the peace holds. The assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. The assemblyman will not denounce Hasan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. The assemblyman just said in his response, well, it depends on occupation. That is code, meaning that Israel does not have a right.
Bro literally took the long road to be like, he is doing taqiyya, the Muslimic Mohammedan practice of lying to the Christians in an effort to implement Sharia law. He's doing taqueria, and it's not Taco Tuesday. He's in code signaling to his Mohammedan counterparts that he wants to do Sharia jihad. Yeah, look at the comments. Look at the comments. New York City mayoral candidate spar over Israel-Gaza positions. Is this a debate for the mayor of Tel Aviv or New York? What does Israel have to do with New York City? Mayoral candidate for New York, America. X. New York, Israel. Check. Again, why was the host asking Israel questions? Just focus on New York City, please. You didn't denounce Hasan Piker. Jesus Christ, this is what political debates are now? Why we have Israel and New York City mayor elections for what? Always Israel. Why do they always talk about Israel? What's this got to do with the mayoral race? As a non-American, it's astounding to see how deep and strong Israel's hold on American politics is. Public office candidates, even at the city level, which has nothing to do with foreign policy, are required by the state mechanism and media to pledge their allegiance to Israel. Haaretz reporter, New York correspondent for Haaretz, Etan Nechin says, I didn't know Israel and Gaza were boroughs of New York. What do your parents think when they see former governor and still sex pest Andrew Cuomo trying to drag you on TV? I mean, they don't give a shit. They know what this is. They're used to it. It is what it is. But yeah, I think this is the broad, if you want to understand like what the average person's perspective is on this shit, okay, that's what it is. Why the are these guys talking about Israel so much? Who cares? And not only do they take this approach, but they also agree with Zohran's position as well. Okay? That's the other thing. They don't. This is not an issue that's important in this debate. And even if it is, even if people are thinking about Israel, they are not siding with Andrew Cuomo's position. They're siding with Zohran Mamdani's position. Do you understand? Most people are saying, well, what the mayor of Israel or New York City?
To exist as a Jewish state, which he has never acknowledged. That is from the river to the sea. That's why he won't denounce globalize the Intifada, which means kill all Jews.
Let's give Mr. Mamdani a chance to respond to that.
I want to be very clear. The occupation is a reference to international law and the violation of it, which Mr. Cuomo has no regard for since he signed up to be Benjamin Netanyahu's legal defense team.
Bars, absolute bars. Once again, boom, roasted.
During the course of this genocide. And I find the comments that Hasan made on 9/11 to be objectionable and reprehensible. And I also think that part of the reason why Democrats are in the situation that we are in, of being a permanent minority in this country, is we are looking only to speak to journalists and streamers and Americans with whom we agree of every single thing that they say. We need to take the case to every person, and I'm happy to do that.
We thank you.
And then they cut him off, but no, dude, are you kidding me? Throwing me under the bus in that situation would be, I don't know Hasan Piker. I'm sorry for ever talking to Hasan Piker. He is a bad guy. You know what I mean? That's a bad thing he said, and he's a bad guy. That's throwing me under the bus. Him saying, I don't agree with his statements, they're reprehensible on 9/11, that is perfectly valid. What do you want him to do? Make it an actual issue? Are you stupid? Because if he were to turn around and try to defend this, okay, and be like, well, what Hasan was talking about is actually America's adventurism in the region leading to 9/11, and he misspoke in 2019, then all of a sudden, that's going to be the major issue here. That's so stupid. You have to tactically retreat in situations like that. He literally defends talking to me and others like myself. Of course, he did he worked through that in the best possible way. He has, 15 seconds to respond to a packaged smear. Obviously, he has a finite amount of time there, very limited amount of time to respond appropriately, and he did it perfectly well, as he has done time and time again. I guess the strongest way to approach it, if we're going to talk about like the worst possible way to approach it, is like throwing me under the bus, saying like, yeah, I shouldn't have talked to him or whatever, which would have been horrible, by the way, because that would make him look weak. Not that like people give a shit about me in general, but that would just make him look weak, right? Like it's not that like my fans are so important or so consequential, or I'm so important or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all, but that would literally look like he's folding for no reason on an issue that he doesn't have to fold on at all. My Muslim parents only heard Cuomo bring up 9/11 after the Muslim question, and their immediate reaction was not who is Hasan Piker. It was, why is he bringing up 9/11 in context to how he'll help Muslims? And yeah, my position on the 9/11 statement is also identical to Zohran's. I should have worded my position more carefully, because a lot of people bastardize the quote, understandably. and maliciously. But having said that, he made the most of that. He made the most of that situation. But remember, wait, what? When addressing the supposed grievance or complaint here, it's important to chat ask themselves if they're hurt because their fave streamer was microaggressed or because they think Zohran is betraying the left. Yeah, but I don't even think most people in here think that that happened anyway. I think most people understand exactly what that looks like. You know what I mean? I do not condemn Hasan Piker. Yeah, he handled it perfectly well without retreating, without folding, without apologizing, because there's no need to apologize for that. And he tackled it. He tackled it in a packaged line of attack that was supposed to heighten his like Islamic background and with as many Islamophobic stereotypes as possible. And as a 34-year-old Muslim socialist who's been in politics, he understands exactly what's going on there. He understands exactly what's going on there, especially because like he's in a double bind. He's in a double bind in my situation because any line of attack that he concedes against me could very easily also imply him as well. That's the other unfortunate circumstance for him. Do you understand? Because he too is a 34-year-old Muslim socialist with a long history of criticizing American intervention around the globe. I found you from your 9/11 clip. Initially, I was outraged as much as I was much younger and had very different views. Staying and listening to you explain your position was my opening point to leftist ideologies in general. My hope is that this guy should can pull more people into the same pipeline, if you will, that I went through, realizing in time that the narratives I had heard about you were simply not true. Yeah. I don't know. That one is political. This is an abject smear, but it's one that I think most people don't. It's one that most people don't understand, especially if they don't have dogs. Like if you have a dog, or especially if you've like trained a dog, you already know what responsible dog parenting looks like. But most people don't. Most people either don't have dogs and they don't know that, like, you know, dogs will move around weirdly sometimes. Sometimes they yelp. Sometimes they try to get your attention. And also, what do you call it? Dogs they need to like constant supervision and training as well. I knew about you, but I didn't know how left you were. I thought you were a whiny lib or something like that. Turns out you're much cooler than that. I have dogs. Like, this shit is the most manufactured outrage ever. Kaya is an amazingly trained dog. I knew you were a good owner as soon as you said the cooked bone thing with Jason the Ween's Hot Ones bit. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the real shit.
Democrat. You're a Democratic
All right,
socialist.
candidates, we have
you didn't
other
vote
ground.
for Kamala Harris, right?
We have other ground to cover. We have other
No,
ground.
said leave it blank in the presidential primary, because primaries are a place to air dissent. And like many Americans, I was horrified by the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani, thank you.
The Assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. The Assemblyman will not denounce Hasan Piker, who said,
God damn, how many clips did this get featured in?
America deserved 9/11.
The occupation is a reference to international law and the violation of it, which Mr. Cuomo has no regard for since he signed up to be Benjamin Netanyahu's legal defense team during the course of this genocide. You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited.
Zohran Mandami, the president is already...
Yeah. It would, first of all, demonstrate very poor political instincts and somewhat poor on him as a human being. You're also right about your multiple overlapping significant categories and not showing solidarity, which shine a poor light on his abilities as an activist too. No. Throwing me under the bus if they kept up the pressure would have been appropriate to do. It's just that the only thing that would make him look bad on is that he's like folding on something that he doesn't need to fold on. But I don't even think that it would be all that consequential in the grand scheme of things, regardless. Because this is not an issue of consequence. It's not. At the end of the day, people go on and appear on a million different outlets when they're trying to promote their policies, right? They do that. That's normal. I mean, he went on Fox News. You know what I mean? Like, it's very stupid. It's very stupid to be like, oh, one of the people that you actually align yourself with is a dangerous radical or some shit. Especially when my positions overall, aside from, let me say this, aside from the negative filtering that people engage with all the time, my positions are not unpopular at all. They're not even radical. The average liberal wine mom at this point has quite similar opinions around, demanding that the Democrats become more aggressive and become fighters and do right by their neighbors and denounce ICE. Like, those are the things that I want from the Democrats. You understand? And many in the base, if we had like an objective reflection of my worldview, many in the base, if they were asked, do you agree with Hakeem Jeffries or this random person, that random person being me, and they just presented our perspective, our political perspectives side by side, who do you think they would agree with? 9 times out of 10. Do you think it would be with Hakeem Jeffries, who has a very low approval rating, or do you think they would agree with the positions that I'm pointing to? That's it.
Said it's going to take $7 billion out of the budget right from the start if you're elected mayor. People are going to suffer in this city. People who need those federal funds. What I would do is sit and negotiate.
Mr. Trump is already suspending infrastructure grants to this city, and he's doing it in a blatant act of political retribution.
I went through this with him. He sent the National Guard to 20 cities when I was governor. You know what city he didn't send them to? New York. Why? Because I said to him, don't you dare, we don't need it, and he backed down, and he will again.
I agree with Police Commissioner Tish in that we do not need the National Guard here in New York City. We do not need them for the purpose of safety, because if it was safety that President Trump was so concerned about, he would send them to the 8 out of 10 states that have the highest levels of crime in this country, but he won't, because they're all run by Republicans. I'd be proud to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, and it's at 26 Federal Plaza that I've seen what used to be moments when New Yorkers would be getting their citizenship turn into moments of tragedy. Andrew Cuomo thinks it's all right to spend $60 million to fund his legal defense from accusations of more than a dozen women of sexual harassment. But if I say we should spend the same amount of money on delivering cheaper groceries in this city through a pilot program,
All right,
that is unfathomable. You've heard it from Andrew Cuomo that the number one crisis in this city, the housing crisis, the answer is to evict my wife and I. He thinks you address this crisis by unleashing my landlord's ability to raise my rent. If you think that the problem in this city is that my rent is too low, vote for him. If you know the problem in this city,
this is the best line in the entire debate,
is that your rent is too high, vote for me.
I was the HUD secretary. I built affordable.
That was such a bar, dude. That was such a goddamn bar.
Housing all across this nation. I built affordable housing in this city when I was in my 20s.
That's true.
I know how to get it done.
Well, Zohran, boy, your fantasies are never going to come about in terms of funding everything you want that's going to be free, free, free. It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the reality.
Are you crashing out about what?
In other words, what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience.
What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you can never make up for in experience.
Yes.
That's another bar. That was the other really good moment as well. Basically, total and utter defeat for Cuomo. It's Cuomo over, and absolute victory for Zohran, and maybe even the Republican protectorate of Curtis Sliwa. Just say yes and move on. Stop feeding the trolls, King. What, like about crashing out? Yes, I'm crashing out. I'm crashing out extra hard. By the end of this debate, if you were a Zohran fan, you left a bigger Zohran fan. If you were a Sliwa fan, you left a bigger Sliwa fan. If you're a Cuomo fan, you left a Sliwa fan. I don't know. Maybe even if you were a Cuomo fan, maybe you became a Zohran fan as well, potentially. It's really cooked. He cooked himself. He was so unnecessarily combative. He was just so bad. He was unironically crashing out half the debate. It was horrible showing, horrible
Said is
performance.
He has no experience.
What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Yes.
We have the architect and we have the apprentice of no cash bail, which has been a disaster.
Just some of the fiery moments from the New York City mayoral debate last night. Andrew Cuomo, Zohran Mamdani, and Curtis Sliwa touched on topics from crime and affordability to who would be most likely to stand up to Donald Trump. With less than 3 weeks until Election Day, voters are thinking critically on who they want to lead the city. And joining us now is Nick Reisman, Politico reporter. And Nick, what's your reaction to last night's debate? Who would you say came out on top?
Well, really what happened was you had Zohran Mamdani going into this as the clear front runner in nearly every poll that we have seen since his upset Democratic primary win back in June. And quite frankly, he left this debate as the clear front runner. Mamdani did not have really any major mistakes that he made. Andrew Cuomo tried to trip him up on a few key issues that have been really kind of difficult for Mamdani during this campaign, like Israel and public safety. And Mamdani, for the most part, was able to parry a lot of those attacks, and he got through on his message about affordability and the cost of living, something that has been really kind of dominating this campaign throughout. It's one of the top tier issues for nearly every single voter in New York City, and it's something that Mamdani is likely going to be carrying into this general election. So he had a pretty good night going forward. Andrew Cuomo did not land that knockout punch, however.
So affordability, safety, the major topics, and you said that the candidates, how well did they do addressing them?
Well, you know, when Andrew Cuomo had his strongest moment of the evening, that was likely when he was attacking Mamdani over his criticism of Israel, especially the war in Gaza, the way that Mamdani has declined to fully condemn Hamas, the way that Mamdani appeared with streamer Hasan Piker, who has said that America deserved the 9/11 attacks. That was ultimately the strongest moment for Andrew Cuomo in this debate. It's the
this guy speaking wrote this hit piece, yeah. The guy who's writing that wrote this. Mamdani passes on condemning the Holocaust. Just so you understand what his background is, okay? If you think that he is behaving here in a consistent manner, this is one of the fastest ways to sniff out someone who is being insincere. If they spend any time on that line of attack as though it's like a solid one, you know that these people are 100%, 1000% deeply uninterested in the actual race itself, but are simply attacking Zohran Mamdani because they are pro-Israel. Okay? That's it. It's probably one of the easiest telltale signs that someone is not all there. Obviously, there are even clearer markers such as this one. But, oh yeah, this was a funny take as well. It kills me that Curtis and Zohran will address each other moderately cordially, but every time Cuomo speaks, they're both like, oh, so now the sex offender wants to chime in. Yeah, true.
The part of the debate where he seemed the most
Do you regret the 9/11 quote? I don't really give a shit one way or another.
confident, but a lot of the forum was really dominated by the discussions that Mamdani has excelled in during this campaign, which has been, focusing on that.
To be honest, I bet you wish you never said that. Nope, I don't care one way or another, 100%, because there are a million. There are so many famous people that have said much worse shit throughout their career. Bill Maher, literally after 9/11, Bill Maher famously, immediately, a week after 9/11 said, you want to talk about bravery? Those guys flew the planes directly into the towers. That's bravery. You want to talk about being cowardly? We lob Tomahawk missiles from thousands of miles away. That's cowardice. Okay? That right there, that is a million times more consequential and a million times more direct than my attitude around blowback for which there is academic consensus on. Okay? This type of stuff only matters as much as you place emphasis on it. Do you understand? The energy that you put into it, the energy that you, like, if you take your opposition's framing sincerely on this kind of stuff, you are giving it more air. You are giving it more legitimacy. This is a real misstep that the Democrats play into all the time. Okay? Democrats do that all the time. It's a major issue for them. They constantly concede on the cynical framing of their opposition. That's why I really appreciated the way Zohran dealt with it, which is like, yeah, those comments are reprehensible. I don't agree with it, but I'm going to continue talking to people like Hasan. Like, what the fuck do you mean? And as a matter of fact, it's bad not to talk to people who we sometimes might disagree with, because he's right. Okay? He's right.
Affordability issue. Even at the end, when Cuomo tried to debate Mamdani on the Christopher Columbus statue, Mamdani wasn't going to bite on that. He said, I'm focused on affordability, laser focused on that cost of living concern, the debate over the statue and these kind of like local culture wars. He's not going to engage on something like that. There's been a lot of message discipline that we've seen from the Mamdani campaign really throughout the summer and heading into the fall. And that's served him pretty well so far.
Well, last night was very important for Andrew Cuomo, who trails Mamdani. How do you think the former governor did in convincing voters that he is the better alternative?
What Andrew Cuomo needs to do here is...
I'm pretty sure this guy wrote a new Politico article as well, also saying this exact same thing that he said about the high point in the debate in a new Politico article as well. But once again, utterly irrelevant.
It convinced moderate Democratic voters who are uneasy with a hard left candidate like Mamdani. He's a Democratic socialist.
Like he is actively trying to farm. He is actively trying to farm a pro Cuomo perspective on CBS News local broadcast. And this is what the fuck the responses are to this like otherwise idiotic back and forth here. In Manhattan, Hasan Piker is a kitchen table issue. How is a mayor going to make New York City more affordable? Is he going to make landlords charge half rent, whatever? Even though the polls say Sliwa at 1%, he's got my vote. Thank God we sold our house in Astoria, Queens last year, moved to Florida. Why do they talk about the Middle East rather than New York? Why even debate? We all know who New York City is going to choose. Cuomo's a joke. A couple takes on Curtis Sliwa. Zohran reposted this recap on Instagram.
New York City more affordable.
Zohran loves Hasan
Go
Piker.
ahead,
that guy
Madame.
is too sexy.
We
I don't
have
like
the
him at all.
architect and
I
the
don't like the
apprentice.
way that he makes me feel. He
There are
gave the
hooligans
finger
in
to
the
Christopher
streets. You
Columbus,
can't
one of
walk
the
down
best
the
Italians
street
we've
without
ever
getting
had.
shot. Take
He's
it
literally
from
a
me. I've
terrorist.
been
He
shot
wants to kill all
17
Jews.
different times.
He refuses to
I
denounce
don't have a
Hamas.
credit card.
He
I
refuses
have
to
a debit
denounce
card.
Hasan. Are they
Just
the same
anyone.
thing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've smoked weed. I'm cool as hell. As mayor, I will make New York City more affordable.
Zohran.
Hell yeah. I like that. I was waiting for Cuomo to say Hamas Piker. That would have been even funnier. And it would have basically proven that he's completely brain broken by his extremely online team.
He also doesn't have really any experience in managing a government. Andrew Cuomo does. He was governor for a decade. He was attorney general, housing secretary for President Bill Clinton. And he has a track record of managing big, complex bureaucracies that you really kind of want in a mayor. So he tried to hit him also on the experience factor. Of course, on the other side of that is the fact that Andrew Cuomo resigned 4 years ago in scandal. He's denied any wrongdoing, but he's been accused of mishandling the COVID pandemic and, of course, was accused of sexual harassment, which he's denied. So the experience argument can really only take Andrew Cuomo so far. Again, he did not land that knockout punch that's really going to make up that double-digit polling deficit that he has against Mamdani at this point.
And finally, Republican Curtis Sliwa, the middleman in the debate. We all know his biggest issue is safety. How effective was Curtis, and is this still just an uphill battle for him?
Well, if you were watching X or any social media during the debate, Curtis Sliwa was clearly the favorite candidate of social media. He is a longtime anti-crime activist, kind of a fixture in New York, something of an eccentric character. He really went into this debate, though, trying to appear mayoral. He wanted to seem like a steady hand at the wheel, not the usual eccentric Curtis.
Very cool. This guy is basically... Everyone is good by my book except for Zohran, it seems. Okay? It seems like everyone did a great job. Everyone did a great job except for Zohran. He was really bad. Have you guys thought about how much he criticized Israel? That was pretty bad. Please, let's not do that.
That we often see in New York City over the last several decades. He didn't even have the red beret, which he usually wears as the Guardian Angels founder. But ultimately, Curtis Sliwa did have some interesting and fun moments. Look, he's got an uphill climb. He's a Republican running in a very Democratic city that tends to elect Democrats, with some exceptions. So it's going to be interesting to see if Curtis Sliwa can somehow retain enough Republican votes that Andrew Cuomo, quite frankly, is going to be competing for if he wants to stitch together a winning coalition.
All right. Nick Reisman, Politico reporter, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We have much.
Why are they talking so much about Curtis?
Meanwhile,
because every moment that you talk about Curtis Sliwa's debate performance and every moment that you talk about Andrew Cuomo's performance is a moment that you don't have to talk about how well Zohran did.
in New York City, mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani lead is growing among likely and registered voters, according to Fox News polls. 52% of likely voters back in Mamdani, with independent candidate Andrew Cuomo trailing behind at 28%. GOP candidate Curtis Sliwa polling at just 14% before the candidates met to debate their policies last night.
And there'll be another debate, but last night was a big one. Mamdani faced a lot of pushback on how he plans to pay for his costly agenda that includes rent control, universal child care, and free and fast buses.
Tell New Yorkers tonight how you're going to pay for all of this in 1 minute, if you can.
Look, a lot of people have called even my campaign a non-starter when we first began. And now I stand before you proud to be the Democratic nominee who got the most votes in city primary history. And I believe we will see the same thing with our push to ensure that we are taxing the wealthiest and the most profitable corporations the fair amount that they should pay.
But again, Mr. Mamdani, I know Governor Hochul indicated this week there may be some open windows, but more or less income tax on millionaires is off the table, according to the governor.
Look, I've said very clearly, making buses fast and free costs about $700 million a year. Making universal child care a reality costs about $5 or $6 billion a year. If you raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, you'd be raising $5 billion in and of itself.
Well, Zohran, boy, your fantasies are never going to come about in terms of funding everything you want that's going to be free, free, free. It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the reality.
The Assemblyman's whole plan is based on a myth. He said he's going to raise the taxes the same as New Jersey, corporate tax. No, it would be double the tax. You would see New Yorkers on 995 fleeing to Florida.
Governor Cuomo is 100% right, but I digress. And just over the bridge in New Jersey, Republican Jack Ciattarelli is closing the gap on Democrat Mikey Sherrill. According to a Fox News poll, get this, Ciattarelli is now trailing by only 5 points among likely voters after trailing by 8 points last month.
Sherrill, on the other hand, losing points on honesty and trust among registered voters, dropping 4 points since September. Ciattarelli losing just 1 point in that category.
All right, so
you said Hochul's a clown and will get primaried. It's actually really interesting because I think she recognizes that as well. Except for that reason, she knows which way the winds are blowing and has been kind of glazing Zohran. If you notice, I expect her to literally say that she would abide by a potential tax increase if it meant paying for all of these like wonderful things that make New York City more affordable for all New Yorkers. And she is, for all of her faults, even though she stood in opposition initially of congestion pricing, she bent the knee on that and actually saw that it was impactful in a positive way. So I think she knows what's up. Hochul wants Zohran's endorsement, and once Zohran wins the election, she'll say she supports his agenda if it gets her his endorsement. She doesn't care at all about principles. She's a machine politician. Yeah.
We have a lot to go over now. Let's begin, of course, let's go in New York City. So in New York City, Mamdani needed a knockout. Cuomo needed a knockout.
Yeah, showing that.
And basically, they say he didn't answer any questions, Mamdani. And look, he was smooth, but he didn't really come to define any policies. And I thought Governor Cuomo spent a lot of time explaining, what's about the accusations? What about the COVID deaths? What about the advance you got on your book? So when you're explaining your own background, it doesn't really work. The best, most clearest guy is Curtis Sliwa. He's just trailing by way too much.
Well, it was really the top two individuals in this race are Mamdani and Cuomo. So the gloves really.
I don't know, man. After last night's performance, maybe the top two are actually Mamdani and Sliwa. He just said Mundaji. Dude, it's awesome. How once he is mayor, inshallah, how will they bastardize his name further?
Came off between those two. And Mamdani.
Because, like, I do think it's half because, like, people just have a hard time saying his name. Like, white people especially, I think, have a hard time saying his name. Because there are plenty of prominent allies of Mamdani that sometimes have a hard time saying his name as well, right? But there is definitely an air of racism associated with it too.
Mamdani said he would not denounce.
Yeah, the Mamdaji is like dodging. It's a pun. I thought the chatter was talking about the hosts. Mamdaji is a pun on his name, saying he was dodging the questions.
Mobilized the Intifada and said he was horrified by the genocide of the Palestinians. And remember on Martha's show, he said, I really don't have an opinion on whether or not Hamas should put down their weapons. When he was asked about that, he said, of course, I believe they should lay down their arms.
Yeah, how do you do that 2 days later? I mean, that's how you know you can't trust anything that he said. He was given an opportunity in a show to just condemn Hamas and go after
well,
and then 2 days later, he all of a sudden gets an answer for it.
And he said that Israel shouldn't be a Jewish state.
Right.
He said that in the past.
But do you understand?
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. He says Israel shouldn't be a Jewish state. He's against ethno-states. Can you believe it? We here at the Fox News broadcast obviously want Israel to be a Jewish ethno-state and want America to be a white ethno-state. That's what we like. We like ethno-states here at Fox News. Can you believe it?
That's how we feel. But do you know the next generation of Americans, even Republicans, are not pro-Israel? Oh. So he's worried about, doing the thing that would help him with mainstream. But he didn't get a bulk of mainstream. He got new voters. So how do you not alienate them? Plus, he probably agrees with them.
Right.
And go ahead and try to win the general population.
Well, in a Fox News poll, voters were asked, what's the number one problem facing New York City? And the most said crime, 25%. 20% said the cost of living. 16% lack of affordable housing, and 8% homelessness and mental health.
I would just add to this, when you say crime is the number one thing, it comes, how does Mamdani want to handle crime? He has not agreed to renew Jessica Tisch, who's done an unbelievable job here.
He says he's not ready to make a decision.
That would be the biggest layup. And he's got this this must drive you crazy, the Civilian Complaint Review Board. No, he can't explain what it's going to do, but his board will decide how cops will be punished or not punished, fined or fired. And you never take that away from the commission.
How is that going to work out? This is the shocking part when it comes to the people and the candidates that they trust for the best job on cost of living. Mamdani gets it by 49%. Sliwa's at 17%. Cuomo's at 32%. On housing, 49% is for Mamdani. 16% for Sliwa, 33% on.
Oof. Mamdani's beating them on crime. Oh, it's so over. Oh, smoke them. Oh my God. Come on, brother. Lady. Who's my big lady? Yalandan köpeği sevme orospu çocuğu. Senin ananı sikerim ha. Yalandan. Ananın amını yaladım. Hayvan.
For Cuomo and Ainsley when it comes to taxes.
Yeah, Mamdani's winning. Look at that. He gets
That's
47% on taxes. And then crime, he gets the most with 40%. They trust him the most. He'll do the better job, they say.
How crazy is that? That a guy that wants to let criminals out, close Rikers Island, have social workers to domestic disputes, and he gets the best marks on crime.
I'm not a New Yorker, so maybe
You live in New York.
I don't understand. I don't understand the connection. Maybe there's just a different. I get the housing thing because he's talking about affordability and all of this, but the crime thing, saying that you're going to defund.
I think it is nutty. It is totally nutty that Zohran has basically repackaged defunding the police by being like, we got to take some of the toll off of these wonderful law enforcement officers and focus on areas where crime manifests, you know, improve people's material conditions, and also hire a network of social workers to be tasked with dealing with a lot of these like mental health crises as opposed to cops. And people were like, wow, that's a brilliant idea. I love it. That is a brilliant idea. What a spectacular message. I have never heard this before. Certainly no one has ever brought this up. No one has ever brought this up. Is he wrong though? What do you mean? This is the position. This is the left position, okay? This has been the left position. It turns out just describing the process was so much better. And I will say a big part of the reason why he has been able to do this is because he just says it how it is. Okay? And also, Democrats are too weak to launch a significant opposition against one of the only figures in the party right now that is actually motivating people, that is actually making people excited. Takia. Yeah, I mean, this person is probably joking when he says it's Takia. I don't think they're being like actually Islamophobic. That's it. Message packaging on the left is so ass. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem for sure. That's definitely part of the problem. But make no mistake, Republicans make their messages stick because they have a unified front. The Democrats and their left flank are constantly at odds with one another. They are constantly opposing one another. You see what I mean? And therefore, there is no unified messaging front on issues like this one. Because if Democrats were like, hey guys, we don't mean like literally fire the police or abolish the police. We mean that like cops are busy tackling crimes as they're supposed to be, but unfortunately they can't tackle all the crimes when they're handling domestic disputes, things of that nature. If like establishment Democrats actually described what defund the police meant, I think that there would be a very different approach to it. Now, it's because Democrats at the national level did not want to do any of those things regardless. That's precisely the reason why they were acting scared. They were operating from a scared position. Scared money don't make no money. This was my advocacy throughout the entire duration when we were talking about defund the police during Black Lives Matter. I was so frustrated. I was so goddamn frustrated with the way that Democrats actually instantly locked in on their left flank and were like, we're not like them. We're not like them. They did this with October 7, post-October 7 protesters. They did this with like anti-Semitism on college campuses. They did this with immigration. They do this with everything. The National Democratic Party are seen as insincere, hypocritical, whiny little smug, entitled babies for a reason, for a very good reason, because they are that. Okay? Because they consistently lean into the most cynical oppositional framing on every single issue. And they hand victory after victory on the messaging front to the Republicans. Okay? And this is the product of that. Zohran is not doing that.
The police. I don't understand how that's good.
But here's the problem with housing, Lawrence. Your bills are, you're going to make less money.
100%.
Your taxes will go
100%.
up. So when it comes to your housing, you're going to have to skimp in
Pay
other
for it.
areas. Yeah.
So here is a look at how the candidates tackled crime.
We have the architect and we have the apprentice of no cash bail, which has been a disaster. We have the architect and the apprentice here of Raise the Age. My own son was almost killed because of that in a gang attack. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of Close Rikers Island, which would just release criminals in the street. Thank God I'm not a professional politician, because they have helped create this crime crisis in the city that we face.
I would add 5,000 police, put 1,500 in the subways.
Dude, that is such a crazy way to talk about this issue, by the way. No wonder people, I think, like Zohran's, no wonder why people think Zohran's method is actually smarter. Like, we're gonna put 1,500 cops in the subway, 5,000 extra police units. Like, by the way, no one ever asks, how are you gonna pay for that? When it comes to 5,000 new cops, 5,000 new heads, training, gear, overtime pay, hazard pay, Candy Crush subscription, so you can get like tier 3 drops on Candy Crush when you're in the subway station. None of that is ever called into question. People only ask, how are you going to pay for it, when it's about fast and free buses. No one ever says, how are we going to pay for 5,000 extra cops? I mean, I guess they technically did ask Andrew Cuomo. He didn't end up answering it, but like, you know, it's just broadly not a thing. How are we going to pay for it with military expenditures? Never asked at the national level. It's only a question for when politicians accidentally arrive at like a reasonable policy that actually helps working class Americans.
Raise the starting salary because you can't hire them. Part of that is going to be saying to the NYPD, I respect you. I don't think you're wicked, as the assemblyman said. I don't think you're corrupt. I don't think you're racists. I value you. I will have your back. I'll be a mayor to work with you.
If you want an actual approach to lower crime, look at our Department of Community Safety. That is something that has been hailed by experts as addressing so many of the pieces of why New Yorkers are not feeling safe today. We will ensure that no longer are police officers asked to do the job of both policing and responding to the mental health crisis. This is evidence-based. It's been successful elsewhere in the country. It's time we deliver it right here in New York City.
He's delusional. You're going to have mental health experts, counselors, social workers show up to the most dangerous call a cop can get, which is a domestic violence call. So you're going to have people that didn't sign up for that profession have violent attacks against them.
Wait, what?
That is the most. What are you going to put bulletproof?
Dude. Every EMT, first of all, every EMT unironically signs up for that profession. And it's completely unacceptable when violence does take place at times. But like the notion that healthcare professionals and social workers do not realize that there is also potentially a violent altercation that could take place in these calls is ridiculous. It is literally an unfortunate but foreseeable part of this job. Okay? It's crazy. It's crazy. Also, an altercation of that sort becoming violent is infinitely more likely if it's a cop that's coming in. Social workers and emergency room nurses oftentimes deal with people experiencing mental health crises with regular they do it all the time. They do it daily. This is their job. And they are able to deal with those incidents without that incident turning into a seriously violent altercation, also with regular frequency, as opposed to the success measure of cops who don't have any tools to deal with someone experiencing a mental health episode and will just take their gun out and shoot people. Police are also an objectively threatening presence. It is the job. It is a part of the requirement. Like, you have to have authority over the person that you're commanding. In many circumstances, that's not the appropriate measure. Saying that social workers and mental health professionals are not trained to deal with these sorts of incidents is like saying firefighters are not tasked with combating fire. It is exactly what they're tasked with dealing with. That is their job. And unlike cops, social workers, and many of them that are in this chat right now, will tell you personally that they are trained to de-escalate. They are trained to de-escalate. Cops, on the other hand, only can escalate. There's no de-escalation.
Best on them as they're going out there to talk with these candidates. It's crazy.
My daughter's calling.
So I just to add to this, one of the other categories is how you going to deal with President Trump. And Governor Cuomo says, look, I've had fights with Trump, before, but I have to work with him. Sliwa says, I don't.
This is such a funny approach that these guys have because they're obviously objectively pro-Trump, but also they have to be pro-Cuomo here. So I wonder what they're going to say. They're going to be like, well, Cuomo and Trump have a better working relationship, I guess. Like, so he'll be better at opposing Trump. Is that because they have to farm Cuomo here because they know that he's the only shot that they have of thwarting a Zohran victory that is imminent. It's just, let's see.
I don't have a great relationship with President Trump, but I'm going to work with him. I think that Mamdani is going to be Pritzker 2.0.
What is this? Look at the New York moms discovering you.
Who the is Hasan Piker? What?
They found the meat pig. New York moms. New York moms found the meat pig. Oh no. Ay, ay, ay. Enemy of my enemy ass, Fox News segment. Yes.
Everything. He's pro-sanctuary city. He's pro-illegal immigrants. There is going to be, and we know they use the National Guard in the subways to make us feel better, thousands of them. So when President Trump, if he wins, and when President Trump goes to crack down on crime, because this guy's going to let open the floodgates to Rikers and not arrest anybody, there's going to be solid.
Those are the Ryder memes. The SEO is not depicting you in a good light right now, bro. Potentially. But also, your expectation is that all of the moms are on TikTok. Or the spaces where that's like pumped out through the SEO are TikTok, Reddit, and Twitter. I know for a fact that no mom is on TikTok or Reddit. At most, they'll see it on, I know for a fact that no mom is on Twitter or Reddit. And there are moms that are on Twitter. Everybody's on Twitter, but it ultimately still doesn't matter.
But friction. And as Cuomo says, are you an idiot? How can you possibly fight with a guy that has billions of dollars in his coffers to give you or not give you? You have to work with him.
I just can't believe these.
What what did the interest happen here? Hasan Piker naked spiked. Wait, what the? October 17th? This morning? Why did it spike? That makes no sense. What? Oh, Trump commutes George Santos's sentence? Oh, my goat. My goat. He's a prison abolitionist.
I can't believe so many people in New York are falling for this guy based on his policies. But I guess they hear in an area, New York's expensive. And I guess they hear, oh, this guy's going to lower my costs. But every politician has said he should have done that when he was an assemblyman. He had the ability to do all of these things. But we had Eric Adams on our couch, and he said, trust me, I'm the mayor. He doesn't have the ability to change all of these policies.
Okay, enough. Oh, yeah, this was also a good take from Sturgeon's Law. New York City is 28% Latino, 20% black, and there were no questions about plans to help either of those communities, but the debate for who will be their next mayor spent 13 minutes on Israel, Gaza, and New York City. Sturgeon's Law says, we need to be able to have an honest discussion about why the moderators ignore local communities and give so much time to questions about a foreign country most New Yorkers don't support without the usual false accusations of anti-Semitism, terrorist sympathy, etc. It's true. Probably because the leading candidate started his political career with a crusade against it. I love these guys. I love the Georgists on Twitter, the rapid urbanist Twitter that weirdly enough hate this guy, even though he's Mr. Urbanist himself. Okay. And also seemingly find themselves constantly feeling maybe a little ashamed about their position on Israel, but constantly attacking critics of Israel, weirdly enough. I wonder how that works. I wonder why. I mean, it's literally, he has Mossad in his username. I know. I know the answer. No, it's not just that they're Islamophobic. Obviously, Islamophobia is a big component to the Zionist charge. Hasbara bots everywhere. Anyway, in spite of the Hasbara bots and all this other shit that's going on, obviously people are not as oblivious. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.